Good morning. Welcome to the physics laboratory. Today we are going to perform an experiment comparing the EMFs of two cells using a potentiometer. Students, you must have studied this concept in theory already, but today we are going to perform hands-on experiment for this experiment. To begin with, let us first talk about the device called potentiometer. Now, what is a potentiometer? The term potentiometer comprises of two terms. One is potentio and the other is meter, meter. The term potentio stands for potential difference and the term meter stands for a measuring device. So, in totality, potentiometer stands for a device used to measure potential difference. Now, a question arises that if this is a device for measuring potential difference, then what is a voltmeter? Which is a device used for measuring voltage. Voltmeter. Again, voltage is a term used at several places instead of potential difference. So, it seems that both the devices are going to do the same work. And if it is so, then instead of using a very small device called voltmeter, why will we be using a very bulky device like potentiometer? So let us first answer this question and then we will proceed further. Now if we talk about a voltmeter, then this voltmeter, as you have studied in your theory classes, and there are two terms. One is called terminal potential difference and the other one is called EMF. And in theory you have studied that we generally use a potentiometer for measurement of EMF and we use a voltmeter can be used for measuring terminal potential difference. The two things are related as V is equal to E minus IR. If we talk of cells, if we have a cell with an internal resistance small r, then we say that if it is producing an EMF E, then across its terminals, if the boundary is showing us the terminals of this cell, including the internal resistance, then if a current I is drawn from this cell, then there is a drop of IR across the internal resistance and the net voltage available is called terminal potential drop, which we call as V. So V is E minus IR. And it is said that the terminal potential difference can be measured by a voltmeter and the EMF can be measured by a potentiometer. Now, this is regarding a cell. Let us talk about any circuit in general. That if we don't have a cell and we don't talk of internal resistance, then a simple potential difference, can it be measured accurately by a voltmeter? Let us take an example. Suppose we have this circuit. This is a circuit, and in this circuit, let there be a resistance of 2 ohms and a current of 5 amperes be flowing. Therefore, the voltage across this resistance will be 10 volts. So let us see. There is no cell is involved in this diagram that has been shown to you. No cell is involved right now. Is the voltmeter capable of measuring this 10 volts? Let us see. Now what we do is we connect a voltmeter to it and let that voltmeter draw a very small amount of current from this circuit. Because unless it draws some current, it is not going to measure anything. It has to show some deflection, and for that, it must take some current from the circuit. Let us say that out of 5 amperes, a small amount of current, say 0.2 amperes, is drawn by this voltmeter. If it is drawing 0.2 amperes has been drawn, then we are left with 4.8 amperes for this 2 ohms. So earlier the voltage was IR 2 5 into 2, 10 volts was the voltage. But now, if you use the same formula, this time the current has reduced to 4.8. So, the voltage is 9.6 volts. No cell is involved, but in spite of that, the voltage that was 10 volts is being reported by the voltmeter as 9.6 volts. Reason being, whenever we have a voltmeter, it will draw some current from this circuit and the voltage is going to change. So if it is an idle instrument, it should not draw a current, but the instrument's structure is like that. To show a deflection, it has to draw some current. So this voltmeter can measure the approximate value of potential drop, but not the exact value. So the next thing is, what is the solution? The solution is a device called potentiometer, which will not be drawing any current like this, and it will measure the actual potential difference. To know about a potentiometer. Now, to use a potentiometer, we must be familiar with its principle, and you have already studied in the theory part that a potentiometer is based on the principle that potential drop across any part of its length is directly proportional to the length of that part. So if we have a wire fitted in a potentiometer and we talk of any of its length, say L, and this length has a potential difference of V, then this V is directly proportional to L. As the length of the wire under consideration increases, the voltage or the potential difference across that length increases. How we will make use of this principle in our experiment, we will come to it later. But before that, to begin with the experiment, we will first introduce or identify the cells that we are going to use. For that, we have taken two cells. The name of one cell is Lagrange cell, which we are going to name as E1. We have another cell called Daniell cell, which we are going to give the name as E2. Now, the cells are not in our curriculum at the moment, so we will not go into the details of these cells, but we will only consider those parts of the cell which are meaningful for this experiment. So first is Lagrange cell. Now this is the entire construction of the Lagrange cell. In this cell, we need to focus on two things. One is which is the positive terminal of the cell and which one is the negative terminal of this cell. You will be provided with this cell which has been freshly prepared. You don't have to prepare the cell. You just need to know that the carbon rod in this cell is to be taken as the positive electrode, whereas the negative, the zinc rod, is to be taken as the negative electrode. More than this, other things are not required. So we focus on the positive electrode and the negative electrode. If we look at this actual cell in which the solutions are yet to be put, this part has in the middle the black portion which is the carbon. So this is the carbon rod which will act as positive, and this is the Lagrange cell, and this one will be the zinc rod. Insert it into the cell only when you have to perform the experiment, otherwise you can keep it outside. This is zinc rod be taken as negative. Now we come on to the next cell, which is the Daniell cell. In the Daniell cell, you can see we have the outer body or the vessel made up of copper, and this vessel will be treated as positive electrode, whereas a zinc rod has been dipped centrally, which will be treated as negative here also. So in both the cells, zinc rod is the negative electrode. So you can see the cell, this is the Daniell cell, the positive electrode, and the zinc rod will act as negative electrode. Now, the question arises how we are going to use this concept of potential drop, this concept of potentiometers principle for performing this experiment. Now, to begin with the actual experiment, we need to look at the circuit diagram. So, let us see the circuit diagram. Oh my God, it appears to be a very complicated diagram. So many cells, so many components involved. And it appears to be a very tough diagram to remember for the examinations. So how to solve this problem? As the diagram is looking as quite complicated. So let me show you something. Can you look at this diagram? A small kitten staring at a German Shepherd. Is it possible in real life? Can a small kitten look into the eyes of a German Shepherd? Do you think the kitten is ignorant of what damage can a German Shepherd cause him? No. Even a small kitten is not that much ignorant. If you look at this very carefully, you can see the German Shepherd is tied up to something and the kitten is aware of this fact. And that is the reason the kitten is sitting so confidently, looking into the eyes of the German Shepherd. This is called power of knowledge. And that is what we need when we need to learn these complicated diagrams. You will be able to easily learn these diagrams if you have the knowledge that how to begin with the diagram and why such diagrams have been made like this. So for that we need to start from simple diagram and slowly start improvising the diagram and finally reach our original diagram. So for that we will begin with a simple diagram. Let us see. We have a potentiometer. The ends are say A and B. We provided with some potential difference. For doing that, we will be using a source like a battery, the positive and the negative. We will be using a rheostat for adjustment of this potential difference provided by this battery. We will be having an ammeter to ensure that at every time the current is constant. Otherwise, the concept of potentiometer, the principle of potentiometer will get violated. The relation V is directly proportional to L is valid only when the current is steady. That is, the current is constant. So we need to provide to this wire a constant current, and to make sure that the current is constant, we have used this M meter. Now we will also use a key and give this positive supply to this point A and the negative supply to this point, the terminal B. So our AB is now getting voltage from the battery. Say the battery is of 2 volts. It is getting this voltage through a rheostat. This 2 volts can be dropped to as much as we want using this rheostat, and the net voltage is getting supplied to the potentiometer wire called AB. Now, this potential whatsoever we have supplied has been spread across this entire length AB. Now, when it has been spread across entire length AB, some length of this wire is going to get some part of this potential difference. We are going to call this potential difference as V and the length as L. This much part's length is L. The ratio V by L is a constant and it is called potential gradient. The potential gradient is constant across the length of the wire. So now what we are going to do is we are going to take one of our cells, say E1, and connect its positive terminal to this point A and connect a galvanometer to it, and this galvanometer will be connected to a pencil like device called jockey. This jockey we are going to touch at several places on this wire, and we will see that by touching the jockey at some specific point, say we consider this point only, at some specific point at distance L from A, this jockey has been touched, and we will see the galvanometer shows no deflection, means no current is flowing. Otherwise, current was flowing through this galvanometer when this jockey was on either side of this point. So there will be some deflection when we move to right side of J, and there will be some deflection when we move to left side of J. But when we touch it to point J, there is no deflection. Now, how is it possible? Why there is no deflection? Let us understand that. We have potential difference getting supplied to this wire from this battery, and this battery has made this point as positive and comparatively this point as negative. So this piece of wire has started acting like a source of potential difference. One end is becoming positive, one is becoming negative. Similarly, we have this cell E1 that is also a source of potential difference, with this side as positive, this side as negative. Now, this piece of wire which is acting like a source will send the current try to send current in this direction from its positive to its negative, whereas this cell will try to send the current in clockwise direction. So these two currents can cancel one another and make the net current as 0. For that, the condition is the potential difference supplied by this piece of wire is exactly equal to the potential difference supplied by this cell E1. Let us try to apply Kirchhoff's law over here on this circuit. If we try to apply Kirchhoff's law, the two sources are, one is E1, the other one is V. The two are sending currents in opposite direction. Let the E1 be the cell which is sending the current in the desired direction taken as positive. So E1 will be taken as positive. V is supplying current in opposite direction, so it will be taken as negative. Also, we have to take into account its internal resistance. If it is R and the current sent is I, then E1 should be replaced by E1 minus IR, and this has to be, according to Kirchhoff's law, equal to the current product of currents and resistances. The internal resistance has already been taken into account. We are left with the other resistances, like the external resistances, the wires that are there, they have some resistance. So it has been taken over there. But at the null point, there is no current flowing. So if no current is flowing, I becomes 0. And if I becomes 0, we are left with E1 minus V is equal to 0, and E1 becomes equal to V. But we have already said that V is directly proportional to L, so V is equal to KL. So this E1 becomes equal to KL. And when this E1 becomes equal to KL, one of the cells E1 is now having the EMF equal to KL. So at the null point, we can with confidence say that our E1 is equal to KL.
Start.
Now, to proceed further, this galvanometer, when it is noting down the null deflection point, we are not in advance aware of where this null point is going to come. And since we are not aware, we will be touching the jockey at several places. So if we go far away from the actual null point, the current will flow to a very large extent. The value of current can be so high that it can damage the galvanometer. So to resolve this problem, what we are going to do is, when we are not aware of that where the null point is going to come, what we do is we here attach a resistance box. This resistance box will reduce the amount of current only, but the null point will not be getting affected because of that. Now, whenever we have to get rid of this resistance box, once we are aware where the null point is going to come, and then we want to increase the sensitivity of the potentiometer, then we will remove this resistance box, and for removal of the resistance box, we don't need to do it manually. What we need to do is we can here attach a key. Now, as soon as you insert the plug into the key, the current will not prefer to go from this resistance box. Instead, it will go through this key K2. We have so two keys in this circuit. One is K1, other is K2. So K2 will allow the current to pass without going through the resistance box. So we are going to bypass the resistance box. And when this resistance box is bypassed, the roll is nowhere. Okay. Now, so final null point has to be measured after inserting this K2, the key K2, and the resistance box will not be playing the role, and the potentiometer will become sensitive. Now, after doing this, we have only made this diagram for one cell. But what we have to do is we have to compare EMFs of two cells. For that, what we are going to do is we are going to take from here point A another wire and put another cell, the other cell, say the Daniell cell E2. Make sure that E1 and E2, their positive terminals, are all connected to the same point A. Now from here, you can have a two-way key from here. You can have a two-way key. We are going to name the points as A, B and C. When we connect A and C, the cell E1 will become active and its circuit will get completed. When we have to do the recording of length L for E2, then we will remove the connection between A and C, and instead we will connect B and C, and E2 will become effective. In both cases, the null point balancing length will come out to be different. If E1 is greater, then for that the length L measured will be greater, and if E2 is smaller, the length L2 will be smaller. So, say for E1, the length measured was L1. We are going to name it as L1. For the cell E2, let the length be L2. L2, since it is Daniell cell, its potential difference is lesser. So, its null point will be different, and in that case, the null point will be L2. So, E1 is proportional to L1, E2 is proportional to L2. So, E1 by E2 is equal to L1 by L. So, if we are able to measure L1 and L2, we can find E1 by E2. That was our aim, to compare the EMFs of two cells. Now, here a very important point needs to be remembered. For cancellations of the two currents, the positive of the battery is connected to point A, and at the same time the positives of the two cells should be connected to the same point A, so that the two currents are in the opposite direction and they can cancel one another. Otherwise, cancellation will not be there and you will not get this null point.
Start.
Now, if you see the two diagrams, look at this diagram and now look at this diagram. The two diagrams are exactly the same. But now this is appearing as a simple diagram because we have done it step by step. So never be scared of any circuit diagram. Just think about why the circuit diagram is like that. If you understand the basics of the experiment, you will never be having any problem. So be thorough with the theory before beginning the experiment. Now we proceed further. To do this experiment actually on this setup, we need a potentiometer. The two cells are already given to us, but now we need a potentiometer. So potentiometer needs to be selected, and for that we have these two potentiometers. You can see the wire is of the same quality in the two potentiometers, but one potentiometer is having 4 wires, 1, 2, 3, 4, but the other one has 10 wires. So we need to select which one is a better potentiometer. The two potentiometers have the same wire. In that case, if the quality of the wire is the same, in that case we will see that the potentiometer which has the greater length of the wire will be a better potentiometer. Why is it so? Why is it that this one is better? Because if the length is more, K will be small. If K is small, then for every inch or every centimeter of the potentiometer wire, if K is small, the potential difference will change gradually. And if it changes gradually, it will be very easy for us to measure. But if it changes very suddenly, then the taking readings will be difficult for us. So try to keep K low by increasing the length of the potentiometer. So we have selected this 10 wire potentiometer, and there it is. This is a 10 wire potentiometer. So we are going to assemble the circuit. The circuit has been kept assembled, and we can see how the connections have been made. First of all, the auxiliary circuit of this potentiometer. We begin with the positive terminal of the battery. It goes to this key. From the key, it has gone to this rheostat. The rheostat will help us adjust this battery's potential difference. Whatever we want to supply from the battery to the potentiometer wire, that can be adjusted with the help of this rheostat. From this rheostat, it goes to this ammeter, so that we can ensure that the current remains constant. If we see that current is changing, we can make it constant by looking at this ammeter. From the ammeter, the connection goes to one of the terminals, which we are going to call as the positive terminal. We don't need to bother about whether this is black in color or it is red in color. We have, because a potentiometer wire doesn't have a positive or negative, it just has two ends. This one we are going to take as positive. We have connected positive of the battery here, and the negative of the battery has been connected to this other end of the wire. After this making the auxiliary circuit, now we come on to our cells. This is, as we have already discussed, this is our Lagrange cell. This Lagrange cell, this is the positive carbon rod. Its positive has been connected to same point A. Similarly, we have a Daniell cell. Its positive, which is the copper vessel, has also been connected to this point A. So all positives have been connected to the same point, which was an important precaution. Next, if now we have the negatives are going of both the cells, the zinc rod here and the zinc rod here are going to this two-way key, and from the two-way key we have this galvanometer. To galvanometer, the other end of the other terminal of the galvanometer is connected to this jockey. Okay, now while performing this experiment, we have to make sure that the battery voltage has to be greater than the potential difference supplied by these cells. For that, what we are going to do is, we have to take a voltmeter, and with the help of voltmeter, we have to measure potential drop across the battery E. Then using the same voltmeter, you measure the potential drop across Lagrange cell, and using the same voltmeter, measure the potential difference across the Daniell cell, and make sure that E is greater than E1, and also E is greater than E2. Why is it so? Why do we want E to be greater than E1 and E2? See, if E is not greater than E1, then the entire voltage that is coming from the battery, which is spreading across this length AB will be less than the potential difference supplied by this cell E1. So if we want some part of this wire to balance this E1, the voltage across this length should be greater than the potential drop across E1. Otherwise, no part of this entire length is capable of balancing this E1. So make sure E is greater than E1 and also E is greater than E2. Now the connections have been made. Let us check whether it is working or not. For that, we have started this auxiliary circuit. This is our galvanometer. We have this two-way key. On one side of two-way key, Lagrange is connected. To other side, the zinc rod of Daniell has been connected. So if we want to make active the Lagrange cell, so this side where Lagrange has been connected, here the key needs to be inserted. For the sake of simplicity, for the moment we have removed a resistance box that was to be connected with the galvanometer for the sake of simplicity only, but the students are advised to connect that resistance box. Now, let us check at the two ends. Here, if we connect this jockey, we are seeing that the galvanometer is showing left side deflection, left. And on the other side, if we touch, again it is left. So there seems to be some problem. Though we ensured in the beginning that this battery was supplying a voltage greater than E1 and E2. So why is it that we are not getting two-sided deflection? Here comes the role of this rheostat. The rheostat is there to adjust the voltage supplied by this battery. It means this rheostat has reduced the voltage supplied by this battery to such an extent that now this entire potentiometer wire is not capable of balancing the potential difference supplied by E1. So let us reduce this voltage, let us reduce the resistance of this rheostat. For that we move this slider to this side. We have reduced it to minimum. Now the current that is coming is going through this rod, entering into this metal part connected behind this slider and going through this terminal forward. So now the resistance is minimum. Now let's once again check. We check the deflection, and at this end it is left and at this end it is right. So now the defect has been removed. So what are the reasons for which single-sided deflection can come? One, the battery voltage is supplied by cells. That you have to ensure in the beginning that that is not the case. Then the single-sided deflection can be because there are wrong connections. So make sure that all positives are connected at the same point. The third can be the rheostat that we have just discussed, that the rheostat should not reduce the battery voltage below the voltage supplied by E1 and E2. So here there will be, once we have ensured that we have two-sided deflections, somewhere on this wire we will get a point where there will be a null deflection. Let us see. On first wire we are getting left, second wire we are getting left, third wire we are getting left, fourth we are getting left, fifth left, 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 right. So here on the seventh wire somewhere we are getting it to the right. So the potential here we know that somewhere around 6th or the 7th wire we are going to get the null point. So let us see where is the null point. So let's try to find out the null point. So here we are about to reach the null point. So this is the point where we are getting zero deflection in the galvanometer. So this is the point. The distance of this point from the positive terminal is our length L1. We need to measure that. For that you have to be very, very careful, because if we go from here, this is 0 length, this is 100 centimeters,
But from here, if I go to the next point, this is also 100 centimeters. We have moved on to the next wire, but it is still 100. It is now not 200. Reason? The wire was here. It has gone from this side, 2-3 centimeters get wasted, but that is not to be counted because the 2 points are connected with a conductor. So here, if the resistance wire is 100 centimeter in length, then here also it has to be counted at 100 because in between there is no resistance, only we have a copper connection. So this is also 100 centimeters, this is also 100. So when you go to that side here, this is 200, this is also 200, then here we get it 300, 300, coming on to the next we have 500, 500, coming to the next, this is 500. So after this 500, this is 600. Now this is 600, 0, 601, 602, so on. And when we come over here, we are getting this as 76 from this side. So this becomes 676 centimeters. 676, but the least count of this meter scale is 0.1 centimeters. So make sure that you report it to 1 decimal place. If we look at it exactly, you will see that it is 75.9. So 675.9 is our L1. This needs to be recorded in the observation table. We can switch off the circuit for a moment. We move on to the observation table. You first need to record all the potential drops that we discussed and also report the least count of potentiometer scale, that is 0.1 centimeters. Now here we have our observation table. In the observation table, you have the balancing length for E1, so you report L1 over here. Then you have to replace, you have to remove the key from one side of the two-way key, and from there you have to put, after removing key from E1 side, put it to the E2 side. Find again the balancing length. This time the balancing length will be for the Daniell cell, so we will call it as L2. We put L2 over here to 1 decimal place. Find the ratio E1 by E2. Then you can perform the same experiment 2 more times, and in the coming times try to disturb this rheostat a little bit and take 2 sets of reading more, and then you can find E1 by E2 3 times, and as many times you find it out, better it is, but 3 is sufficient, I suppose. So after taking 3 sets of reading, you can take the mean of E1 by E2. Now let us discuss some precautions and sources of error. This is an electricity experiment, and about general precautions you are already aware of. Like in such experiments, the key should not be inserted for so long, because if the current is passed for long, there can be a rise in temperature of the various components, and the resistances of the components may change. Other precautions are like for this particular experiment, we should use an ammeter to ensure that the current remains constant throughout the experiment, because the relation V directly proportional to L is valid only when the current remains constant. So make sure you have this ammeter for ensuring the same. Then we should not slide the jockey in this experiment over the potentiometer wire. There are 2 reasons for it. One is, if we slide the jockey, if we are sliding it from one place to the another, the contact of the jockey with the wire is for a long duration of time, and because of that, again the current flows through the circuit for a longer time, which may change the resistance of components involved. The other important reason for not sliding the jockey is, if you slide the jockey, then the cross-sectional area of the portion of the wire where the jockey we are sliding may change. Now, if the cross-sectional area of this piece of wire is different from this piece of wire, it means due to change in area, the resistance of this piece of wire is different from the resistance of this piece of wire. If this happens, all the pieces of this potentiometer wire are in series. all are receiving the same amount of current. Although they are receiving same amount of current, if their cross-sectional areas are different, if their resistances are different, the potential drops across different pieces of wire will be different. This is against our assumption that the potential difference is going to vary gradually and uniformly. So to ensure that the cross-sectional area of different parts should be the same. So never slide the jockey, pick it up, place it at some other place, and always pick it up and place it at some other place. Try to avoid as much as possible sliding of the jockey. So these were some of the precautions. Now I would one more important precaution. Like when you are taking this reading and you are recording L1 or you are recording L2, you know that you can change the first L, whether you are recording L1 or you are recording L2. The first L to be recorded is in your control. How? The first L can be changed with the help of this rheostat. But while finding L1, suppose you have fixed this rheostat at some position, then while finding L2 you are not allowed to disturb this rheostat, because the potential gradient should not be changed when you are moving from L1 to L2. Otherwise the conditions of our experiment will get violated. So there you are not allowed to change that rheostat. But while measuring L1 you are allowed to change this rheostat. So change it to such an extent that L1 is as large as possible. This is a precaution. Why is it so? Why do we want that L1 should be as large as possible? Look at the reason. Suppose the ratio of the two EMFs is same. Suppose it has to come as 1.4. This 1.4 is possible, the ratio of E1 by E2 is possible as 1.4 in various ways. For example, it can be 14 upon 10 centimeters will also give you the same answer. 140 upon 100 will also give you the same answer. Say 900 upon something will also give you the same answer. Now when the same answer is possible in various ways, why are we saying that L1 should be as large as possible? It should be taken preferably on the last wire of the potentiometer. Why is it so? It is so because if you are trying to find this ratio as 14 upon 10, and while measuring this 14 or 10, you commit a mistake of 1 centimeters and you record it as 13 upon 10. There is an error of 1 centimeter in measuring 14 and let it be 13. So 13.10 will give you an answer of 1.3, whereas 14 upon 10 will give you an answer of 1.4. So a minor error of 1 centimeter will change your answer remarkably. Whereas if you are taking very high values like 900, if 900 is recorded as 899 or it is recorded as 901, it hardly makes any difference. So try to take L as large as possible, and once you take L1, don't disturb it while taking L2. Throughout one set of reading of L1 and L2, we should not disturb the system, the rheostat. Now in the beginning of our experiment, we were talking about two terms, EMF and terminal potential drop. You have studied in theory that we talk of EMF of a cell when the cell is in open circuit, and we talk of terminal potential difference when the cell is in closed circuit. So can you tell me on the basis of that have we actually measured E1 by E2 as L1 by L2, or have we measured V1 by V2 as L1 by L2? So this all is depending upon whether the circuit is open or the circuit is closed. Now when you were in lower classes, at that time we used to study that open circuit is generally the one that is a broken circuit from somewhere. The path is not continuous. And about closed circuits, you have studied in lower classes that in a closed circuit, the path is continuous. So when you are measuring this balancing length, the path appears to be continuous, and it is continuous. If you see this cell It is in a closed circuit. It looks that it is in a closed circuit. There is nowhere the circuit is broken. If it is a closed circuit, then it should be V1 by V2 should be equal to L1 by L2. So are we wrong in saying E1 by E2 is L1 L2? Or what is the issue? Let's understand this. When the circuit is broken, the cell is not sending any current. In our circuit, when we have found the null point, at that moment, the galvanometer is showing null deflection, no current is flowing. And when no current is flowing, even if the circuit is continuous, it is not broken, it has to be regarded as an open circuit. And when you regard it as an open circuit, we can use the term E1 by E2. EMF term can be used. So that is why we are correct when we say E1 by E2 is equal to L1 by L2. One important point I would like to discuss, this is not a precaution. Just I would like to ask you that it is said that these potentiometers, when they are made, the wire used should not be made up of copper. Why is it so? Generally, it is said that copper has high temperature coefficient of resistivity, due to which if it gets slightly heated up, the resistance changes by a very large amount. So we prefer to use manganese and constantan because they have low value of temperature coefficient of resistivity. So their resistance will not change much when the temperature changes. Regarding this, I would like to ask you a question, that even if the resistance of this wire changes due to rise in temperature, how is it going to affect our experiment? Because our experiment says the K has to remain constant. Even if the resistance changes, if the resistance changes, say due to rise in temperature, resistance increases for this piece of wire. If resistance increases, the current decreases. Resistance increases, current decreases, but the voltage remains same as much as you have supplied from the battery. If as long as the supplied voltage is the same, the potential gradient will remain the same. So this should not affect our answer. So the question, I leave it open-ended to you. Why should then we not use copper, or can we use copper? Think about it and get back to me. Thank you.